Welcome to today. I'm Aaron Jack, your host. Today we will be here with Art Jedi. So welcome, and thank you for joining. Thank you for joining today with Doing Good HQ, where you, the artist, are also the philanthropist. So we will have here today Art Jedi. So welcome. We will just click on all the buttons and bring on all now. So thank you for joining and sit back and enjoy. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. I'm so excited to have you on here today.
Likewise, it's my very first Instagram Live. How about
What?
that?
No way. I'm so honored. I'm
You've
so
you've
honored.
popped my Instagram Live cherry.
Amazing. So we've known each other for a while across these social media cherries, and
Gmire?
uh oh, are you there? Oh, our internet, you're there. I just see spinning wheels. Let's see what happens. Well, thank you all for joining today. We're just gonna sit back and enjoy what happens and see what happens. Oh, you're there. You're back. All right. There we go. So
Yeah, I disconnected for a while. I think it will be interesting this whole
I think so too. I think it will be an interesting effect of what happens now and how do we end up here at this very moment in time together. Ah, here we go. You're back. You're back. You're back. So we've traversed these streets, these audio streets, these visual streets. What's happening for you now as an artist, as a creative, as you're traversing these streets beyond the physical world?
I think the way can you hear me? Am I
Yep, you're good.
perfect? I would answer it in a way that, and I see Akash there and Sui Love and so many amazing friends. Hello everyone, I acknowledge you. Um, I think to answer that is like we've been here now for a year and a half, and um, what am I doing? What am I doing as an artist, right? Um, so it's taken me, I think for me, um, as social as I am and as vocal as I am, I'm also someone who, and I've been very public about it, someone who's been traversing this pandemic grief, and it hasn't been easy, stepping into the IRL, stepping back into the physical world, and um, and it's taken me like I've spent quite a long time learning the Web3, the like what can tech do for artists, not just myself, not just for my art, but overall for the whole art world, because I want to change the narrative for women like myself, for people of color, in the art history. And how does that happen? It happens from you, it happens from me, it happens from each of us, one brick at a time, and we build this together. So I've just been learning and thinking about how, and also I took my time to launch my art because I have been like I'm a prolific maker. I have so much of my portfolio is, it can feel like, I don't know, 6 continents. I have so much art. Um, and so making like I am an artist without Web 2, Web 3, Web 8. But what do I do with the tech, right? So yeah, it's taken me a bit of time to put my work out there, and I'm figuring out um, like what's the best avenue of putting which collection where, and just experimenting and exploring different blockchains. So not just the Ethereum, but um, Solana, Tezos is quite hip, and I have quite a lot of friends there. So yeah, it's a lot happening. A lot happening now. Finally, I feel like I'm really ready to step out and just really take it on. So yeah, sky's the limit. Not even that. Beyond sky's the limit.
I love the stars. I love the stars as they exist. And I'm really curious here as we build between the social audio worlds and the social audio, social video, just social beyond, beyond and in the physical world. I mean, I've had the pleasure to meet and hang out with you for quite a while in the physical world as well, which I feel very grateful for. And um, and I'm very curious, as building between both the facilitator role of other artists as well as being an artist yourself, how do you find that? How are you looking to find that balance in as you take the next steps into the future?
Yeah, that is the question. It's a struggle, because if you have to in the NFT, so let's start it with this. What's the difference as an artist in the NFT world as opposed to Web2? If you're going through galleries, you put yourself, you put your art on the wall in the physical world, and the curator curates an exhibition. You don't have to talk much about it. The gallery takes the lion's share of the promotion, and so you're a little bit separate from the actual putting your work out there and talking to people. Whereas in Web3, if you're not represented by a gallery, you're your own promoter, you're your own spokesperson, and the pressure is real. Like you have to constantly do it in a way that doesn't come across as a show. You have to constantly build your connections, naturally and organically, not in a manipulative way either, because that becomes very apparent. People who do that, and then one and people like us who are community builders, we put ourselves behind, like other people are ahead of us because we're constantly promoting other people, we're constantly talking about other people, we're constantly highlighting other people. And so when do we find time or the opportunity to talk about us? And it feels forced sometimes when the opportunity does arise, and the inclination or the fast impulse is to always highlight others. But you have to, if you want your art to get somewhere, you do have to find that balance. You have to find opportunities or create opportunities to talk about yourself, talk about your work, so people don't never forget that you're an artist. For me, like that's all I am. I'm an artist, artist first. I am a curator. I had a gallery for 3 years. I have curated and put together and funded exhibitions, and other artists have bought so much art. So I am collector as well. But if my art doesn't get the oxygen, then I die as a human. So um, I think you just need to prioritize yourself and separate sometimes, and create that boundary where people understand and realize that you are an artist, and that has and the whole point of building networks is that when you have, like when other people have opportunities because you've provided them with opportunities, then they bring you the opportunities. That's a network effect, right? Yeah, I think the challenge is to always make sure people never forget that you're an artist.
And I'm very curious here, as such a community builder yourself, you must find great value of some type in in building up other people. And I think that's very interesting, and I think it's an important message for the artists and the creatives out there is what does it mean to you being a community builder, and how might an artist segue to also build up each other? Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm melting here. It's like so hot. um, so what does it mean for me personally? It's a very selfish act. I am not to go too much into my personal life, but I am somebody, even though my family's alive, I feel like an orphan. So for me, like just having really, really open-hearted people that I connect with who appreciate my presence is really important. So, but once you step out of that selfishness, it's the abundance mindset that there's enough to go around for everybody. And the more you create an opportunity, the more it generates more opportunity, and it elevates everybody. It sounds a bit cliche that, you know, a rising tide raises all ships, but it's true. It is true. Like when you have that mindset that there's enough to go around, and some opportunities are not useful for me, but they're useful for somebody else. So rather than gatekeeping those, I'd rather open it up for other people. And once you have that mindset, then it's just a very natural act. It's not contrived, and it's not like it just becomes your second nature, right? To have that family around you, that you're all building each other. Because whatever we do now, in about 3 months, 6 months, you know, we'll be that much further along together. And I'd rather have people who helped me, that I helped around me, than just be around complete strangers. So, yeah. Does that
I
make
think that's
sense? Or
yeah. Yeah, I think it does. I think it's really interesting, the tie between how to build up those around you and what does that mean, and that it's not just about you, the individual, right? That's part of it, right?
but also it's I was actually listening to Vishen Lakhiani's book on Audible, and it's The Code to the Extraordinary Mind. And it does talk about like your goals. And a lot of us, we're never trained to actually, like, goal setting is never part of our curriculum, right? It comes through the going through the journey of life and learning to understand your priorities. And because in Web 2, or in like life even now, and I don't see that changing, and I hope that changes with Web 3. But like, we're trained to go through a certain curriculum in school, pass the exams, go to university, learn some kind of skill, and have that career. Whereas I'm somebody who trained as a surgeon, and like, life took me on a path of self-discovery, and I was an artist. I was always an artist, and I had to grab the nose the other way, and tell the world and tell life and tell people, like, no, this is where I am. This is who I am. And so goal setting is so important. We're trained to set the means goals, like this is the means to get there, to get there, to get there. But what a lot of the time people get to those goals, and because they don't have an oversight of the end goal, they feel dissatisfied or never enough, because that was just a journey, that was just a process. But what is it that you actually want to do? For me, the end goal, it's taken me a long time to discover that within myself, but for me, the end goal is this equity that we can all have in the system, and we can change the system together. That's the end goal, where everyone's equal, and there's a diversity of talent, and people don't think about anybody's religion or skin color or sexual preferences. Like, it's the talent, the meritocracy is what's important. So if that's my end goal, then I'm not going to be thinking about tiny or like things that don't matter, right? What matters is how do we get there. and once your goal is diversity and inclusivity, and equity, then everything has to be together, like has to be done together. No one person can change the entire system. It has to be done equally, collectively.
It's very interesting that the idea that we all need to make the change, that it's not just one person, um, and towards a certain goal and towards these ideas of equity and a broader view of who we are as humanity, perhaps. Now, I want to bring the conversation a little back down to what you're working on right now in terms of your artwork. Um, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're working on and what's been inspiring you along the way in this recent work?
So I I haven't made any art in the last sort of 6 months. Actually, I am trying, but that's not true. Like I am creating, but this entire body of work that I was working on, like even last year, it was put to a halt because for a time being I didn't have a studio, and even the struggle of, there's a lot of distraction, and there's a lot of um like staying in touch with what's happening in Web3 and being invited to so many talks, and I was hosting spaces so much that it took a lot of time and energy. So I had to take a step back from a lot of those things just to be able to get back to grasps with my own self and my art practice. Um, what I'm doing right now is bringing, like for me, Web3 provides an opportunity to put that provenance of my work on blockchain. So I'm in the process of doing that. Um, I started with um, I started with the Echo of Chaos, which is the water reflection series. So what my work's elemental, and but then as a I create art as a witness of my time. So the works that I've created, and also there's like an element of healing because that's where my journey started. So the water reflection series was my genesis as an artist, where I finally took a pause in life and said, this is it, this is all I want to do. And then I ended up for years and years this obsession with water reflections, because that's the most ephemeral thing that you could create something with. So I'm putting that on the blockchain. I've had some works on known origin and super rare, all sold out. And I have a plan of putting a collection there, but I'm also in the process of it's another work from my humans thread. Um, so I'm a storyteller, so I guess I want to tell the story of me as an artist on the blockchain. Um, yeah, so I'm just doing like two different things on Tezos. One, the meditative pieces that I've made, and the other are more this work on Tezos that I've finalized now is something I made a few years ago, and it's about, gosh, should I tell people? I don't know. Um, so it's a story of a girl coming to age in a society that dictates that she be invisible. And that's very pertinent to this time, as we know what's going on with the with the law that's just changed and taken women's rights and put us back half a century, I mean, maybe even a century back in time. So, and that's a very intimate, very private collection of photographs and a short film. But I think Tezos is the right place because it's right now a lot of contemporary artists and appreciator of contemporary art are gathered around there. So I've chosen Tezos, and that collection is going to go, what date is it? 13th? Yeah, in about a couple of days. I'll be minting it today, putting some word out there, and it will be available in a couple of days. finally need to do something. Like I'm a thinker, I'm overthinker, and I think I'll never be perfect. So I just need to take a step. Progress, not perfection, I guess.
Perhaps the perfection is in the progress.
Yes. My philosopher, my resident philosopher, Aaron Jack.
There we go. There we go. I'll put that on my title.
That should be on your CV, resident philosopher.
Right. I'll do it. I'll do it for you. um, I really like what you were saying with the art being the witness of your time. And I'm curious, what are you witnessing of your time now?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm witnessing what you're witnessing. For me, sometimes it takes because I do a lot of research. So right now, of course, I'm researching the abortion, the gun shootings in America, because that law was passed, and apparently the gun holders have more rights than women in contemporary America. So that's something that's already hit home. But I also make works about um, like the human rights violations generally um, that don't get the attention from the media, or the media attention moves on to the next thing. So that sometimes takes more of my focus, because I want to create something that will act as a either as a memorial or some kind of record or documentation of that occurrence. Um, so there's so many happening, but right now, I think there's 3 or 4 things that I would be making works, but they will not, like for instance, when I made works about um, the issue of refugees being mistreated. There's like a whole installation that I made, and it's called Through Sahara Looking for Stars. It didn't come out until like 2 years later. It takes me time to process. Sometimes tech is always a magpie for tech. So tech, I'm always exploring and what, like working out how can this work be best realized with what resource. So rather than pinning myself down, so I didn't introduce myself, but I am a multidisciplinary, multimedia artist, have been forever. But photography is always like a building blocks. Even this work, for instance, there's a whole body of work. I made it. So I was volunteering in Calais. I think it was 2015. And at that point, the Calais jungle was so big before it was all clamped down, and there was just so much happening there. So I went to volunteer there, but I couldn't process it. It was such a harsh experience that I could not process it for at least a year. And then during my master's, when I was introduced to lithography and other forms of printmaking, um, that's when I like something happened, and I created this whole installation basically, and it came from this photograph of pavement, like chewing gum strewn pavement that once it was transformed through the material, it looked like this palimpsestic, very ancient, an image that looked like it already existed forever. And so I created something like an almost, yeah, it was a performance as well, because I installed it in a different way. Maybe we can have a conversation later on as to how um, I'm really interested in perception, and also how a piece of work is installed changes the perception of a viewer, and how the NFT world or the whole digital medium is changing perception, and how right now it's very like template, right? You just go into any of the NFT exhibitions, and they're just like screens around the room, and people stand in the middle and have drinks and that kind of thing. And how can that be different? So yeah, maybe I'm jumping ahead of myself, but yeah, that's where I am.
I think that's actually a really important point, is that the perception of the work. and how to break out of the frame of how it's perceived. And I feel like that might be one thing of why to come to NFTs, to break out of the frame of what is traditionally seen and how it's seen. But then how are we building that forward? And maybe you have some thoughts or feelings on breaking that frame of perception, and how that framing might move as we evolve through NFTs and bridge the physical and the digital.
So I want to push back a little bit. I always find the word traditional a little bit misleading because it gives an impression that contemporary artists haven't used digital media ever, and now suddenly there is this thing that we're just all discovering together, but that's not true. Digital means of creation by the contemporary artists has happened for 60 to 80 years. And in 2019, I actually curated an exhibition called the Embedded Stories, and it was in my gallery in Cossack Contemporary in Bristol. I had the moving images. I had screens all around 6,000 square foot warehouse. 2019, way before I even discovered NFTs. I brought Bedwyr Williams' works to my gallery in Bristol and created special kind of like, for instance, his work was behind the screen where people could just sit on the floor and watch that on beanbags. Then there was another work by another artist, and it was more like a story of a native Black American woman growing up, and it was tethered in this memorabilia that her grandmother was collecting. So that room had like people could write on the walls anything that came to them after they'd watched that film. And it was just 2-3 minutes long, like it was on the loop. And so there was like an element of interaction there already. Then there was another film that my friend Sean Sobers, who's really, really influential figure here, in Bristol, he created this film about like the idea around the masculinity and how he's dealing as a male, with that idea of masculinity and growing older. And then he juxtaposed that with a film that he had made a few years ago, and then that film was there already. And so what I did, I invited all the viewers or all the visitors and there was like this guy was dancing, and then Sean Sobers was dancing in the end, like that's the answer. And then I invited all the viewers to dance or in response to that, and we recorded that, and that became a piece of work. So it's like the evolution of, it's not just like you create one piece and it stays there. It can become an evolution of something, of that idea into something else. And that's, I guess, as an artist, I've always done that. Like I see something and I'm really interested in that. How does it transform? What can transform it into, you do something, and then it changes, right? Like Jasper Jones, canvas is the medium, so you can anything can be a medium, anything can be a canvas. This conversation can be a canvas. So yeah, I think that's where I feel like this whole idea of putting your works on screen needs to evolve beyond the screen. And also there's like the false terminologies that are creeping into by people who don't understand the medium. That needs to happen as well.
Beautifully said. This is a canvas, and thank you for speaking on this canvas that we've created together. I know that you have to go in a minute here, but I want to give you a couple last words. Anything you'd like to say before I wrap this up? I just want to say thank you, Art Jedi, for being here with us today, with me and with us, the audience. Yeah, I mean, just to say that perhaps we're all the audience here of our own lives, but thank you for being here and for sharing.
I appreciate it.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
sorry, I think No, there's a little bit of a lag in the end. But I just want to say, first of all, thank you for asking me to join you in this conversation. You're a beautiful interviewer, and I appreciate this conversation so much. For me, yeah, anyone who's watching this, keep an eye on my Twitter and also what I'm doing. Like I'm launching on Tezos in a couple of days, and also my super rare collection is coming out. So just keep an eye out on my socials. I would really appreciate any retweets, any collectors who might be watching this. But also, I think like what you're doing is absolutely amazing as well, bringing artists, bringing creators to the fore, highlighting them, and I wish you all the best. And thank you to all of the friends who joined this conversation as well. It made my heart sing.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Just click the X button and I'll give a little wrap up here. Thank you so much.
All right. Much love, everybody. See you soon. We'll have more conversations for sure.
Thank you so much for joining here. Again, I'm Aaron Jack. We are here today with Art Jedi. I really appreciate you, the audience, being here with us every week, every time, every moment to be, to exist, to explore, and be a witness of our time. And so thank you. Thank you to Doing Good HQ, where you, the artist, the creative, you can also be the philanthropist. So thank you so much. Again, I'm Aaron Jack, and we're here as a witness of time. Thank you so much. Take care.